entrepreneur. Number one, right information, right strategy. Doesn't matter how smart you are, how hard you work. If you're in the wrong vehicle, you're not going to make money. I've seen this time and time again with my clients and with myself in my 20s doing a bunch of dumb business ideas. I think the service business is probably your best bet. Um, Failure rates the lowest, margins in general are the highest, easiest to set up and start. And within that, you've got to have the right niche. Um, Finding what exactly your market wants. I mean, you can do general insurance and general real estate and do well. That actually is a good strategy. Patrick Bet David did well in that. Ed Milet, um, Brad Lee's starting one. I mean, they were doing MLMs, take the ethics for what it is. But ultimately, those broad, big markets, and it's not rocket science, it's just a bunch of sales guys and hitting all the marketing channels. Um, but ideally, I mean, at least I think you're in something where you're niched and you have some kind of edge. If you look at Hormozy, he was going from failure to failure in gyms and getting robbed by partners and all these different things. And he was about ready to quit when he was on the phone with some guy about to do a gym launch in person for the guy. And he said, I'm not doing this anymore. It's over. I'm hanging it up. And the guy said, man, I was really needing that to save my gym. Can I pay you just for the consulting? And so he threw out a number of $6,000. The guy paid him and he realized he had a business, right? After he'd niched and niched and niched, and then stumbled onto the angle. And that's usually how it is. There's a lot of guys doing 2 million on something they stumbled on and they're terrible at everything else. Or there's a guy that my client used to work for, who's 2 million in his engineering business. He's in his 60s. He's been running it for 25 years. He's never done a sales call, a marketing initiative, and he doesn't even ask his clients for referrals. That was just referrals handed to him that generated up to $2 million, never even having asked for them, right? And that's the way it is in a lot of businesses, like legal, engineering. To me, that's in a lot of times business on easy mode, where people need the thing. It's B2B, and people are just coming to you from your website. I've got a lawyer client who got 3 new clients last month from his website, and because he has 17 Google reviews, and that's more than anyone else in his county. And people were Googling because they need a lawyer and they have no choice. So like a need-based business. We're working on the ad campaign right now and niching it down and going into business litigation and how he's going to be a pit bull in your corner and tailoring for the right avatar, the really litigious sort of, multi-7-figure entrepreneurs and all that stuff. And we're going to absolutely crush in the same way that I'm crushing for my client in the engineering space, is finding that niche upon niche upon niche and that strategy. And that guy's going to make more money than the programmer with the 200 IQ, who's either working a job or he's, doing freelance work on Upwork, or he's trying to do a tech startup but has no business savvy or acumen or strategy and the right mentorship. So this is by far and away better than IQ, better than everything else. Right strategy, 100% for sure. Next point is courage. If you don't have courage, you don't have the balls to start a business, but you also don't have the balls to scale a business. So if you're watching this, I'm assuming you're an entrepreneur. If you're not, what the fuck are you doing? Start the business today. I'm also assuming you're doing 6 figures, especially if you've been with me for a while, you've scaled up, or 7 or 8, like some of the guys in the RLD Brotherhood group. So the big area for courage is, how invested are you in your business or your businesses? Grant Cardone would tell you to go all in, and I would say go pretty close to that. I mean, keep 100K or 300K in the tank. Whatever. I perhaps need a bit more because I was a poor boy and I still have a deep fear of being poor again. We were very poor for a long time. And then, as I said, I had some failures in my 20s. So I've got that poor boy's trauma. But at the end of the day, what stops guys from scaling once they have a good strategy is they just don't have the balls to put it into the marketing. As opposed to being hungry like an animal for a flywheel within your business that you can't wait. Like, to reinvest in. You know, you're pissed off because you don't have it. The ads channel is not working, or the cold emails or the cold calls aren't working, and you're just looking. Like, what's the thing that's going to scale me to 5 mil or 10 mil? And it's always marketing. Like, you can max out sales, and that's great. And I was a sales guy, but marketing is about 1,000% more important than your closing skill. Your closing skill can be adequate. Shit, it can be terrible. Your sales guys can be terrible if you have enough pre-sold leads. So what I've seen in working with a lot of entrepreneurs in the sales closing business that I have, as well as through my clients, one of which runs a marketing agency, is that, you know, most guys are just pussy at the end of the day, and they won't spend. They look at like, ooh, 1,500 on ads. That's a lot of money. Let me think about it. Even the guys doing 6 figures or 300K, and my client charges 2,500 for his marketing fee. It's like, dude, you're not going to scale if you don't spend money on marketing. And marketing is the first thing they put on pause, which always means they stop doing it because it didn't work for the bitch ass month long test spend they did at 1,500, right? Like, you have no choice if you want to scale. If you want to stay at your income level, fine. But it means you don't have the courage. You're too comfortable with 6 figures, and the reason you're not scaling is courage, as opposed to, I'm not comfortable with 6 figures at all. I need to be at 3 million, 4 million. So I can't wait to find, I'm just saying this hypothetically. The guy is saying, like, I can't wait to find the flywheel that's going to push me up to 3, 4 million. And the second I find an ads channel working or cold calling, I'm dumping everything in. I'm taking my salary for living expenses. Everything else is going in until I go exponential. Then when I'm doing 100K a month, 200K, 300K, whatever it is, and take home, okay, now I can pull some out. I can take some chips off the table, buy the lifestyle property, or go into the, you know, property rental business. I would suggest abroad instead of in America, where your cap rates are like 3%. My client was telling me, which is fucking garbage. You can get 15% in a townhome in Phuket, or a condo in Colombia. So you've actually got a business out of those investments. But that takes courage to get there. And, you know, if the thing to sacrifice is these low standards and this comfortability, because in 2023, 6 figures is not enough in America. 250 is the new 6 figures, and you should be aiming for 7, because the reset's coming and AI is coming, and the window is potentially limited. I mean, these things could roll out and be relatively smooth, but I don't think they will be. I think that a large part of the workforce is going to lose their jobs to AI. They're going to have to be on universal basic income. Anytime you're resetting the monetary system, you're dealing with issues. We're talking about programmable money potentially being launched. Very easily, you could see, you know, the US dollar losing position potentially. You could see, you know, high inflation, if not hyperinflation scenarios. I'm not sure if that will be the case, but certainly post-pandemic, with the amount of money that was printed, and with the you know, the ever exponentially rising debt, you know, there's some real issues. You know, there's the issue of the petrodollar too, with Saudi talking with China perhaps to, you know, and if those things happen, you've also got the deflationary depression risk. I don't know which way it would go, and then you've got the hyperinflation on the other end. So you need your income to be high enough to where some major economic shock comes through, knocks out half your revenue, 70% of your revenue. You're still rich though, right? If you're making 200K a month living abroad like I am, I could lose 80% of that and still be making the equivalent of 40% in some type of economic catastrophe. Lifestyle's not affected at all. Still able to reinvest while all the competitors got crushed and everyone around you got crushed. So depressions happen like there's going to be a depression or hyperinflation this century. Most countries are going to have a war within their borders, every century, if not multiple ones. If you're in Latin America, it's a quarterly thing where they go into hyperinflation or some type of reset of the currency, in Brazil and Argentina and Venezuela. Um, so a lot of guys are stuck thinking it's the 1950s or whatever, and or even the 80s, and six figures in America is something. It's something abroad, but in America, you're just comfortable on that. So you need to have courage. Number three is aggression. So this kind of ties into courage. Every really successful guy I know is very aggressive, impatient, um, can be ruthless and perhaps impolite at sometimes, has to learn how to bite his tongue to, smooth things over, and living for that target. So I don't have a boss as an entrepreneur, but my boss is my targets, right? That's who I take orders from. If the target's 100K um, by the end of the year, per month or whatever, you're living for that. You're waking up for that. How do I get to 100K? How do I get the physique the way I want? How do I get the girl the way I want? Whatever it is, you're coming in with hyper aggression because you have high standards, and you're not patient. You're persistent over time, and it usually feels like everything's moving too slowly. You can do reframes on this. Dan Sullivan talks about looking backwards in terms of gratitude, and that does work. But it is a constant practice to do that, because your natural default is aggression, always feeling behind, always feeling that things are moving too slowly, feeling that you're surrounded by dumb people who make dumb mistakes and you have low tolerance for it. That is a across the board characteristic I've seen for success. You need to be very aggressive, very focused, and put a lot of energy into whatever goal it is that you want to take seriously within business.